If someone had told me a single smile could upend a life built on rules, I would have sworn I was immune. She said she was married, and the most powerful woman in the room confirmed it with a dangerous smile. Like she'd heard that excuse 1,000 times and never once let it matter. Vivian Cade didn't flinch or blink. She simply crossed her legs in that tailored navy suit, the diamond-studded cufflink catching the city light, pouring through the Meridian Tower skyloft windows, and said with velvet-lined malice, "That's never stopped anyone worth ruining." The room froze. The kind of hush that vibrates under your skin when you realize you've crossed a line you can't return from. Lena Voss had stood in powerful spaces before: courtrooms, boardrooms, press conferences, but never like this. Never where her body betrayed her so completely. Heat climbing her neck, mouth dry, heart hammering treacherously in her chest. Vivian's gaze never left her, so Lena asked, voice low and precise, "Is he worth your loyalty?" Lena didn't answer. Couldn't. Because loyalty had nothing to do with the pull she felt in that moment. The magnetic force that had dragged her into this woman's orbit from the second she walked into that gala and saw Vivian Cade standing alone beside a $1 million whiskey cart, looking like power and danger and seduction wrapped in a woman who never played by anyone's rules but her own. The gala had been a political fundraiser. Lena's first as the newly appointed communications director for Senator Marisol Klein, a woman known for her moral spine and iron will. Lena was supposed to be working the room, making allies, reinforcing the senator's image. What she wasn't supposed to be doing was locking eyes with Vivian Cade, billionaire CEO of Cade Strategies, the woman behind half the country's most successful PR cover-ups and whispered scandals. Vivian shouldn't have even been at a political event for the opposing party. But Vivian never went anywhere she wasn't invited. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, go ahead and drop a like to help us grow even more. And let me know in the comments on a scale from 0 to 10. What score would you give this story so far? Your feedback makes all the difference. And she never left without taking something. Lena had tried to avoid her for 15 minutes. She'd stayed on the other side of the ballroom, sipping champagne, laughing politely, doing everything she could to pretend her skin wasn't buzzing from the electric awareness of Vivian's presence. But then Vivian moved, crossed the room like gravity bent for her, walked right up to Lena, eyes locked, and said, "You don't belong here." Not really. Lena had smiled, professional and measured. "Excuse me?" Vivian's smile had been slow and razor-sharp. "This room is full of liars. You wear honesty like perfume. It's leaking out of your pores. It's adorable. I'm married." Lena had said like that meant something like it was a line drawn in stone. Vivian had only looked at her. "And yet," she murmured, "you're still talking to me." That was 2 hours ago. Now, they were alone in the Meridian Tower skyloft Vivian owned 5 blocks from the gala. Lena hadn't meant to come, hadn't even said yes, but somehow she'd ended up in the back of Vivian's car. The door held open like temptation dressed in black leather and scent of power. "Why me?" she asked now, breathless despite herself. Vivian stood slowly like a predator uncoiling. She walked toward her, heels silent on marble. "Because you said no," she said, "and people who mean it don't follow me home." Lena's chest had. Her marriage wasn't perfect. What marriage was? But it was safe, structured, predictable. 3 years of vows and routines and quiet Sunday mornings. But nothing in that life had ever made her feel what she was feeling right now. Standing in front of a woman who didn't play fair, didn't ask permission, and looked at her like she was already hers. "You're dangerous," she whispered. Vivian reached out, her fingers brushing the hem of Lena's sleeve. "So are you," she said. "You just forgot." Lena should have left. She knew that. Every inch of her brain screamed it, but her body stayed. Her lips parted. Her heart raced. "I can't do this," she breathed. Vivian leaned in, her voice soft, but unrelenting. "You already are." Lena's phone buzzed in her clutch. She ignored it. Vivian's hand was now resting at her waist, Not possessive, just knowing. Certain. What are you afraid of, Lena? That I like it, she said. Vivian smiled again. That same dangerous, slow, lethal curve. You will, she promised. And then you'll hate yourself for it. Lena's resolve cracked right down the middle. She stepped back, breath hitching, pulse wild. I have to go, she said. Then go, Vivian said simply, turning away, walking toward the bar. But don't lie to yourself about why you came here in the first place. Lena hesitated at the door, hand trembling. Her whole body felt like it was being torn into, one half screaming to run, the other desperate to stay. She turned one last time. Vivian didn't look at her, just poured herself a drink slow and smooth like she'd already won. And maybe she had because Lena left, but she didn't go home. The cab ride should have been enough to clear her head. The city outside was humming with life, headlights streaking across rain streets, neon signs flickering like the pulse Lena was trying desperately to calm. But all she could see was Vivian, the way she looked at her, like she knew every crack in her foundation, like she'd been waiting for her. Lena stared out the window, clutching her phone with white knuckles, ignoring the stream of texts lighting up the screen. Her husband, of course. He was probably wondering why she hadn't come home after the gala, wondering where she was, who she was with. She hadn't lied to him. Not yet. But silence could be worse than a lie, couldn't it? She told the driver to stop 3 blocks from her apartment. She didn't want to be seen arriving in an unfamiliar car. She didn't want to explain. Not tonight. Not when her skin still buzzed with Vivian's touch. And her thoughts were a chaos she couldn't untangle. She walked the rest of the way home in heels that pinched and a heart that had in ways she didn't know how to name. When she finally stepped into her apartment, the lights were still on. Her husband Ethan Cole was sitting on the couch, face tired and eyes full of quiet concern. Lena, he said, standing. Where were you? I called you. I know, she said, voice sharp with guilt. I'm sorry. The event ran late. That's all. His question hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. Lena nodded. Yes, a lie. Her first real one. It tasted bitter on her tongue. She walked past him, straight to the bathroom, locking the door behind her before he could say more. She undressed slowly, her dress falling to the tile like evidence. She stood in the mirror and looked at herself, really looked. Her eyes were too bright, her cheeks still flushed, her lips still swollen from almost kisses that hadn't happened, but somehow felt more real than anything else in her life. She turned on the shower, stepping into the heat like it could wash away the memory of Vivian's voice in her ear. You already are. But it didn't. Nothing could. The next morning, she was quiet over breakfast. Ethan tried to talk to her about their upcoming anniversary trip. Something in the mountains. A cabin, some peace away from the chaos of their schedules. But her mind was elsewhere. Vivian's face kept flashing behind her eyes. That smirk, that voice, that certainty. At work, things were no better. Senator Klein had meetings all morning, and Lena was expected to prep the media briefings. But her hands shook as she typed. She kept checking her phone. She hadn't saved Vivian's number, but the message came anyway. You left your earring. Her breath caught. She hadn't even noticed. Her hand flew to her left ear. Gone? Of course. She didn't respond. An hour later, another message. You should come get it. Or maybe you left it on purpose. Lena swore under her breath and shoved the phone into her desk drawer. That night, she didn't go home. She didn't go to Vivian's either. She walked the city for hours, coat wrapped tight, air cold against her skin. Her heels clicked against the pavement like a metronome to a song she didn't want to hear. She ended up at a bar she used to frequent in her college days before the suits and the title and the marriage. The bartender remembered her, gave her a glass of wine without asking. Rough night, he asked. Rough life, she muttered. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. She didn't want to know if it was Ethan or Vivian. She didn't want to know what it meant that she couldn't tell which one she hoped it was. By the time she stumbled out of the bar, tipsy and tired, she was ready to go home, to forget, to pretend. But when she rounded the corner toward her building, Vivian was there, leaning against a black car like sin in red lipstick, holding a small velvet box in one hand. Lena froze. "How did you? You're not that hard to find," Vivian said simply. "Especially when you want to be found. I don't." "Liar." Vivian stepped forward, holding out the box. "Your earring." Lena took it with trembling fingers. "Thank you. That's not why I came." "Then why?" Vivian's eyes searched hers. "Because you left, but you didn't want to. You don't know me." Vivian smiled slow and knowing. "I know what it looks like when someone's trying to convince themselves they're still in control." Lena's jaw tightened. "I am sure," Vivian said. "Keep telling yourself that." Lena turned to leave, but Vivian's voice stopped her cold. "Does he know?" Lena didn't answer. She didn't need to. "Would he care?" Vivian added, tilting her head. "If he knew what kind of woman his wife really is." That snapped something inside her. "Don't talk about him." "Why not?" "You do," Vivian said. "Every time you say his name like a shield. But you're not hiding, Lena. Not really. You're waiting for permission. For permission to want something more." Lena's voice cracked. "What do you want from me?" Vivian stepped close, their faces inches apart. "I want to watch you fall apart, and I want to be the only one who gets to put you back together." The air between them pulsed. Lena could barely breathe. "This is wrong," she whispered. "So make it right." Vivian replied. "Walk away. Go home. Forget me." Lena didn't move. Couldn't. Or Vivian continued. "Admit you've already made your choice." And in that moment, Lena knew she had. Lena didn't sleep that night. She lay beside her husband in the dark, eyes wide open, heart pounding against her ribs like it was trying to escape her chest. Ethan's breathing was steady, peaceful, completely unaware that the woman lying next to him was unraveling thread by thread. Every time she closed her eyes, Vivian's voice echoed in her skull. Low, intimate, dangerous. "I want to watch you fall apart. And I want to be the only one who gets to put you back together." Lena had heard lines before. She'd been flirted with, complimented, teased, but nothing like that. Nothing that pierced right through her like a blade dressed in silk. She shifted under the sheets, her skin still tingling where Vivian had stood close, where her breath had brushed Lena's cheek like a promise. Her body ached in a way she couldn't name, not lust alone, but something deeper, a hunger, a kind of starvation for the version of herself she'd buried under years of safety, expectation, and the performance of who she thought she was supposed to be. Vivian had split that version with a single glance. At 3:12 a.m., Lena slipped out of bed, feet silent on the hardwood, heart pounding like even breathing was a crime. She went to the kitchen, sat in the dark, and stared at the velvet box holding her earring. She hadn't put it back and couldn't. It felt radioactive, like wearing it again would mark her somehow. She considered calling in sick, pretending, shoving this into the place where people bury all the almosts they never act on. But the truth was alive now. It had claws, breath, and her name in its mouth. And Vivian Cade was feeding it. At work, everything hummed like static. Senator Klein's staff was prepping a televised panel on political ethics, and Lena was drafting the talking points. Irony tasted bitter. She stood at the edge of the conference table while the team argued phrasing and stats. But her mind was elsewhere, back in the rain on the sidewalk. Vivian saying, "You're waiting for permission." A hand touched her arm. She jolted. "You okay?" asked Talia Reed, the junior assistant. "Yeah," Lena said quickly. "Just didn't sleep." Talia's nod was sympathetic. "Take a night off. Seriously, do something for you." If only she knew. When the meeting ended, Lena retreated to her office and shut the door. She stood there a long time, fingers pressed to her lips, remembering how her breath had hitched when Vivian leaned in. She shouldn't have liked it. She shouldn't have wanted more. But she did. God help her, she did. Her phone lit again. Vivian Cade this time, a call. Lena stared through 3 rings and answered. You're persistent. Vivian's voice was a velvet blade. That's not the word people usually use. Then what is dangerous? Addictive. I've heard them all. You shouldn't be calling me. And yet here we are. Did you wear the earring? No. Why not? Because it would mean something. Vivian laughed softly. Everything means something. Lena, even silence. What do you want from me? I already told you. I want you to stop lying to yourself. And then what? Then we see what happens when you finally start telling the truth. Lena swallowed. I'm not ready. Yes, you are. You're just scared. Maybe I should be. Then be scared, Vivian said. But don't be boring. The call ended. Lena sat in her chair, stunned. Vivian didn't play by anyone's rules, not even gravity. She was a force, a storm, and Lena was already halfway gone. That night, Ethan wanted to talk. He lit candles, poured wine, tried to reach for the version of her he'd always known. You've been distant, he said gently. Work, she lied. Just work. You can talk to me, you know. If something's wrong. Lena looked at him. Really looked. He was kind, stable, safe. He loved her. But he didn't see her. Not the way Vivian did. Not like someone trying to strip her bare. Not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. He didn't want to touch the chaos inside her. He wanted to fix it. Vivian wanted to set it on fire. Everything's fine, she said. Another lie. The next day, Vivian sent a car. No message, just the car. Waiting outside Lena's office at 6:03 p.m. She stared at it from her window for 10 minutes before grabbing her coat. She didn't tell anyone she was leaving. The driver didn't speak. The city passed in a blur. When they arrived, it wasn't the Meridian Tower skyloft this time. It was a different building, a sleek, minimalist space downtown, all glass and shadow. Lena stepped out of the car with shaking hands. Vivian met her at the elevator dressed in black, her hair pinned up, lips crimson. You came, she said like it was inevitable. I shouldn't have, but you did. They rode the elevator in silence. When the doors opened, the entire top floor stretched out in front of them. A private gallery, empty, silent, lit only by the glow of soft golden lights on art that looked like it cost more than Lena's apartment. Why here? Lena asked. Vivian walked slowly, heels echoing. Because I wanted to show you something beautiful before I ruined you. Lena stopped walking. You think this is a game? Vivian turned to her, eyes sharp. No, I think this is the first honest moment you've had in years. You don't know me. I know what it looks like when a woman is starving for something she's been told she's not allowed to want. Vivian took a step closer. I know what it's like to feel caged inside your own life. Lena's throat closed. She wanted to deny it, scream, run, but she didn't. She just whispered, I'm married, and I'm not asking you to leave him. Vivian said, I'm asking you to admit you want me. Lena's breath caught. The space between them was electric. Vivian didn't reach for her, didn't touch, just stood there waiting. Say it. Lena's heart screamed. Say something. But she didn't. She turned and walked out again. And still, she didn't go home. The rain started just after midnight. A soft drizzle that kissed the city with a kind of melancholy Lena couldn't shake. Like even the sky knew what she was doing, what she wasn't saying, what she wasn't ready to admit. She hadn't gone home. She hadn't even told anyone where she was. After walking out of the gallery, she'd wandered through the city like a ghost in heels, past glowing storefronts and strangers with umbrellas and street lamps that painted everything gold and wet and unreal. She ended up at a hotel somewhere anonymous, somewhere no one would look. She didn't check in with her name. She didn't call Ethan. She didn't even answer Vivian's text. Still pretending. It had said, no greeting, no demand, just a blade dipped in silk. Lena left it unread. but her fingers hovered over the screen, too long, like they needed to feel her name. In Vivian's mouth again. In the silence of the hotel room, she stared at the ceiling, heart aching, skin buzzing, mind spinning like a storm that wouldn't stop. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Vivian standing beneath those gallery lights, shadows playing across her cheekbones, lips slightly parted, gaze so steady it made Lena feel naked without even being touched. "I'm asking you to admit you want me." Lena had almost said it, almost cracked, almost given in, but almost didn't count. Almost was still betrayal. Almost was still a fracture in the version of herself she'd spent years trying to protect. But protection was no longer enough. The next morning, she didn't go to the office. She texted Talia and said she was taking a personal day. Talia didn't question it. Lena didn't owe anyone an explanation, except she did to herself, to her marriage, to the life she was pretending to still fit inside. She sat on the edge of the hotel bed, bare feet on cold tile, staring at herself in the mirror. Her face looked different, older, younger, confused. Her lipstick was smudged and her mascara faintly smeared beneath her eyes. Not from crying, but from friction, from wiping, from resisting, from wanting. She wanted Vivian. She wanted her in a way that didn't feel like infidelity, but invasion. Vivian had crawled inside her skin and rearranged her bones, and still she hadn't touched her. Not really. Not yet. That night, she went back to the gallery alone, hoping Vivian would be there, hoping she wouldn't. The space was closed, the lights off, the windows dark. She stood on the sidewalk, cold biting through her coat, heart hammering. Then the car pulled up. The same black car, same silent driver. The door opened without a word. Lena slid inside, her body acting before her mind caught up. Vivian was waiting at a townhouse this time. Brown stone, quiet street, windows glowing warm. She opened the door herself, barefoot, hair down, wearing soft gray silk like armor disguised as surrender. "You came back," Vivian said. "I'm not sure why, I am." Lena stepped inside. Vivian didn't touch her, just watched her, studied her like she was a painting with hidden meanings. "You didn't answer my message. I didn't know how." "You still don't." Lena swallowed. "I'm not ready." Vivian tilted her head. "Then why are you here?" "Because I can't stay away." Vivian's smile was gentle this time. Not cruel, not mocking, just honest. "Good," she whispered. "Because I'm done pretending I don't want you." Lena exhaled like it hurt. "This can't happen." "Then stop it." Lena didn't move. Vivian stepped closer slowly, deliberately. "Tell me no," she said. "Tell me to back away." Silence. "Tell me this isn't what you want." Lena opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her whole body was shaking. Vivian reached up, brushing a strand of hair from Lena's cheek. "I'm not going to kiss you," she said. "Not unless you ask." The air between them was thick and trembling. Lena's lips parted. "Please." That was all it took. Vivian moved like gravity, like heat, like inevitability. Her mouth found Lena's with a hunger that felt ancient, like they'd been searching for each other in other lives and finally collided in this one. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't slow. It was desperate. Real. Their hands tangled in silk and wool. Mouths crashing. Breath stolen. Sanity lost. Lena gasped as Vivian's hand slipped under her coat, splaying against her waist like a brand. Vivian pulled her closer, bodies aligned, mouths devouring. And still, even now, it didn't feel like cheating. It felt like truth, like some deep part of her had always belonged here, in this moment, in this woman's arms. Vivian broke the kiss first, lips brushing Lena's jaw, her throat, her collarbone. "Say it," she murmured. "Say what?" "That you want this." Lena's voice shook. "I want this." Vivian smiled against her skin. "I know." They didn't go to the bedroom. Vivian pushed everything off the table in the foyer. Books, keys, a crystal glass, and lifted Lena onto it like she weighed nothing. Their clothes came off piece by piece, slow and reverent. as if they were peeling away years of silence and lies. Every inch of skin was erupt. Every moan pulled from Lena's lips felt like confession. When it was over, they didn't speak for a long time, just lay tangled in each other, breathless, quiet, alive. Vivian's fingers traced lazy circles on Lena's hip. "Do you feel guilty?" she asked softly. Lena turned her head, met her eyes. "Not yet." Vivian laughed once, quiet and sharp. "You will." Lena didn't respond because she already knew, and still she didn't move. Morning came too quickly. The soft gray light filtered through Vivian's bedroom like guilt in silk pajamas. Subtle but impossible to ignore. Lena woke tangled in sheets that didn't smell like home. Her body sore in the best way, her soul aching in the worst. Vivian was already awake, sitting by the window in a robe, coffee in hand, watching the city like it belonged to her. And maybe it did. "You didn't sleep much," she said without turning. Lena sat up slowly, the sheet falling to her waist, exposing the skin Vivian had memorized just hours ago. "I couldn't." "Why not?" "Because I don't know what this is," Lena whispered. "And I'm afraid I already know." Vivian finally turned to her, and her eyes, so sharp, so sure, softened just enough to hurt. "It's whatever you let it be. Don't do that." "Do what?" "Pretend like this doesn't matter to you." Vivian rose from the chair, walking toward her with that quiet, lethal grace, her robe swaying like a secret. She stopped in front of the bed, crouched down, and placed her hand over Lena's heart. "This matters," she said softly, "but I won't beg you to choose it. You either do or you don't." Lena looked away. "I have a life, a husband." "Do you love him?" "Yes." "Do you want him?" Silence. "That's what I thought," Vivian said, standing. "You don't have to justify anything to me. Just don't lie to yourself." Lena got dressed slowly. The weight of the night before clung to her skin like perfume. She couldn't scrub off. She didn't kiss Vivian goodbye, didn't promise anything, didn't even say she'd come back. But they both knew she would. At home, Ethan was already gone. A note on the counter said he had an early client meeting. Lena stood there for a long time, staring at the note, her hands trembling. She deleted Vivian's number from her phone. It didn't matter. She still remembered it. Every digit that week passed in fragments. She buried herself in work, in meetings, in media briefings. She smiled at cameras and answered reporters, and stood beside Senator Klein like nothing was falling apart inside her. But she wasn't sleeping. Not really. Every night, her mind returned to Vivian's hands, Vivian's mouth, Vivian's words. "Say you want this." And every morning, she woke beside a man who had no idea who she really was. Vivian didn't call, didn't text, didn't chase. She didn't have to. Vivian Cade was the kind of woman who knew silence was louder than noise. And Lena's silence was screaming. By Thursday, Lena was unraveling. A small thing, a dropped file, a harsh comment from a journalist. Someone brushing too close in a hallway set her off. She snapped at Talia. She cried in a bathroom stall. She stared at herself in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman looking back. That night, Ethan made dinner. Pasta, her favorite. He poured wine and asked about her day and smiled like nothing had changed. "You've been distant," he said again. "We're both busy," she replied. "But you've never been quiet." Lena looked at him, really looked. He loved her. She didn't doubt that. But he didn't know her anymore. And maybe he never had. "Do you ever wonder if we made the right choice?" she asked suddenly. Ethan blinked. "What do you mean? Getting married? So young, so fast." He put his fork down. "Where's this coming from?" "I don't know," she lied. "Just been thinking a lot lately." Ethan's voice was careful now. "Is there someone else?" Lena froze. "No." Another lie. A bigger one. Ethan nodded slowly, but she saw the flicker of doubt behind his eyes. "I love you," he said quietly. Lena nodded. "I know." She didn't say it back. That weekend, Vivian showed up. No warning, no invitation. Just appeared at the steps of Lena's apartment building like a storm wrapped in skin. Lena opened the door and her breath caught. Vivian looked tired. Unshaken but tired, like restraint had become a burden. "We shouldn't do this," Lena said immediately. "Then why did you open the door?" "Because I thought it might be someone else." "Liar," Vivian said, stepping inside. "You felt me before you even saw me." Lena closed the door, heart racing. "My husband is here." "No, he's not," Vivian said. "He left 20 minutes ago. You're watching me now. I'm waiting for you." Vivian said, "There's a difference." Lena didn't respond. Couldn't. Vivian walked closer, and this time Lena didn't move away. "I tried to forget you," Lena whispered. "I tried to move on. And I still wake up wanting your mouth on mine." Vivian's eyes darkened. "Then what are we still talking about?" "I don't know how to do this," Lena said. "I don't know how to stop wanting both lives at once." "You can't," Vivian said. "You have to choose. Pretend or feel." Lena's walls cracked one by one. "It hurts," she breathed. Vivian nodded. "That's how you know it's real." Lena kissed her first this time. Hard, desperate, like she needed to drown in something just to feel alive. Vivian kissed her back like she'd been starving in silence. And Lena was finally the answer to a question she'd never dared ask. This time they didn't fall into bed. This time it was slower, more deliberate. Lena stripped off her guilt first, then her doubts, and finally her blouse. Vivian undressed her like she was unwrapping truth itself. Every inch of her skin felt like confession. Every sigh, every gasp, a piece of her old life falling away. After they lay in silence. But this silence felt different. Not heavy, not guilty, just known. "If you stay here," Vivian said, "you'll have to lie to him again." "I know. Will you?" Lena didn't answer because she didn't know anymore which version of herself she was willing to lose. She lied again. Of course she did. When Ethan came home that night and asked if everything was okay, she said yes. When he kissed her cheek and asked if she wanted to watch something, she nodded. When he fell asleep beside her, she stared at the ceiling and imagined Vivian's hands on her waist, her mouth on her skin, her voice like smoke curling through the darkest parts of Lena's mind. It was getting harder to separate the truth from the performance, harder to remember who she used to be. Before Vivian started unraveling her one careful layer at a time. At work, she avoided mirrors. She avoided Talia. She avoided Senator Klein's questions about whether Lena was still committed to the re-election. Strategy. Everyone noticed she was off. No one said it out loud. Vivian didn't text again, didn't call, but her absence was louder than her presence. Lena saw her name in every news headline, every magazine article, every whisper about political donations and campaign secrets. And the woman who always got what she wanted without ever having to say it. The next time Lena saw her was at a charity banquet 3 weeks later. She hadn't known Vivian would be there. The event was hosted by a nonpartisan education initiative and Lena had agreed to go. Because Senator Klein needed the visibility. It was supposed to be a safe space, neutral. But nothing was safe anymore. Not when Vivian Cade walked into the room like gravity shifted just for her. Lena felt her before she saw her. Her body reacted first. Stomach tightening, breath catching, skin buzzing. Then she turned and there she was. Vivian in midnight blue, her slicked back, red lips painted like sin, eyes locking onto hers with a heat that melted 3 weeks of silence in a single glance. Lena turned away. She tried to focus on the senator, on the guests, on the speech she was supposed to help deliver. But Vivian didn't disappear. She stood across the ballroom, watching her like a game. She knew the ending, too. When Lena finally slipped away to the restroom to breathe, Vivian was already there, leaning against the marble counter, arms crossed, waiting. "You look tired," Vivian said, voice smooth. "That's rich coming from the woman who hasn't spoken to me in weeks. I was giving you space." "I didn't ask for space." Vivian pushed off the counter. "You asked for chaos." I gave it to you. And what do you want now? I want to know why you keep running back to a life that doesn't see you. Lena exhaled sharply. It's not that simple. No, Vivian said, stepping closer. It's not. It's messier than you want it to be. It hurts. It breaks things. But pretending doesn't make it less real. You make it sound like I can just walk away from everything. You can. You did. Vivian's jaw tensed for the first time. Lena saw something crack in her. I did, Vivian said slowly. And I lost people. But I found myself. That's the difference. Lena turned to the mirror. I don't know who I am anymore. You do, Vivian said. You just haven't let her speak. What if I hate what she says? Vivian stepped behind her, close but not touching, her breath warm against Lena's neck. Then you finally know the truth. I'm scared. Good. Vivian's eyes met hers in the mirror. Fear means you're close. Lena closed her eyes. Close to what? Becoming. That night, she went home to Ethan. He was reading on the couch. He looked up, smiled. Hey. Lena stood in the doorway and stared at him. At the man she'd promised forever to, at the life she'd built like a fortress. Around a version of herself she no longer recognized. Can we talk? She asked. He put the book down. Of course. Not now. Later. Tomorrow maybe. Ethan's smile faltered. Are we okay? Lena didn't answer because no, they weren't. And pretending they were would only buy her more time. She didn't deserve that night. She didn't sleep again. Vivian's words haunted her. Fear means you're close. Close to what? To blowing up her life. To letting someone see the mess inside her. To admitting that she didn't just want Vivian. She needed her in ways that felt primal and unrelenting and terrifying. She couldn't shake the look in Vivian's eyes when she said she'd walked away from everything. What had it cost her? What had it given back? Could Lena do the same and survive it? The next morning, she called in sick. Ethan was already gone. She stood in the apartment a long time, staring at the wedding photos, the shared books, the kitchen table where they used to laugh. Then she grabbed her coat and left. She didn't know her destination until she was standing there. Vivian's townhouse, the same black door, the same hushed street. Lena hesitated, then knocked. Vivian opened within seconds. I didn't think I'd see you again, she said. Neither did I. Vivian stepped aside. Lena walked in. No words. No permission asked. She went straight to Vivian and kissed her hard. Raw, needing anything louder than the guilt and the silence that had strangled her for weeks. Vivian answered with a hunger that made the floor vanish. They crashed through the kitchen, up the stairs, into the bedroom, clothes tugged away, breathless, feral. But it wasn't only sex. It was reckoning, release, surrender. Afterward, they lay tangled in sheets, hearts still thudding, while a quiet opened between them like a reply. I'm not ready to leave him, Lena said. I know, Vivian answered, but I'm not ready to give you up. Vivian studied her for a long moment. Then don't. You'd be okay with that? No, Vivian said, voice rough. But I'm not in love with your choices. I'm in love with you. Lena went still. Say it again. Vivian leaned in, kissed her forehead. I love you. Even when I wish I didn't. Lena closed her eyes as tears slid silently down. For the first time, she understood the stakes, not just her marriage, not just her name, but her entire sense of self. And maybe that was exactly what had to fall away for her to finally be found. She didn't go home that night. She stayed in Vivian's bed long after their heat cooled, after the adrenaline ebbed and left only silence. Vivian slept beside her, breaths even. One hand draped over Lena's waist as if afraid to let go even in dreams. Maybe Lena should have slipped out, walked away. But she didn't. She couldn't. Because for the first time in years, she felt more real here in the arms of the woman she wasn't supposed to love than she ever had inside the quiet, careful life she'd built. Mourning, though, brought consequences and guilt and questions she couldn't answer. Vivian stirred as Lena rose, her voice still thick with sleep. You leaving? I have to. You don't. I do. Vivian sat up slowly, the sheet slipping down her bare back. Will you come back? Lena didn't answer. She dressed in silence, each button another thread pulling tight around her chest. I can't keep doing this, she said finally. Vivian's jaw clenched. Then don't. Lena turned. It's not that simple. No, Vivian said, voice low and even. It never is. Not when you're scared of what you actually want. That's not fair. Neither is wanting someone who's still pretending they're not already mine. The words hit like a bruise. Lena left without another word. The walk back to her apartment felt like purgatory. Cold, quiet, heavy with the weight of everything she wasn't saying. When she stepped inside, Ethan was sitting at the kitchen table, fully dressed. Hands wrapped around a mug of coffee gone cold. His eyes met hers instantly. He didn't smile, didn't speak, just looked, and it was worse than shouting. I couldn't sleep, Lena said, lying before he even opened his mouth. I went out to clear my head. You didn't answer your phone. It died. It always dies lately. She swallowed hard. Ethan, are you seeing someone? The question cut through her defenses. Her mouth opened-closed. No, but it didn't sound like truth. Not even to her. Ethan looked away, jaw tightening. I'm not stupid, Lena. I know something's wrong. You haven't touched me in weeks. You avoid me. You don't laugh. You don't look at me the same. We've just drifted. It happens. Not like this. Silence stretched between them like a noose. Do you love me? He asked. She hesitated. Too long. Yes, she said eventually. But it's different now. Because of her. Lena froze. I saw the way she looked at you at the fundraiser, Ethan, and the way you looked back. He stood slowly. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself it was just politics, just work. But it's not, is it? I didn't mean for this to happen. But it did. His voice cracked. And now I don't even know who you are anymore. Lena stepped forward, tears burning. I'm trying to figure that out, too. Then tell me, he said, voice shaking. Do you love her? Lena's breath caught. I don't know, a lie. The biggest one yet. She left the apartment an hour later. She didn't tell Ethan where she was going. Didn't answer when he called out her name as she walked down the hallway. She just kept walking. She ended up at a Ashen River promenade where the wind cut sharp and the sky threatened rain. Her phone buzzed. A text from Vivian. Are you breathing? Just 3 words. And somehow they made her eyes well up more than Ethan's broken voice had. She didn't respond. Not yet. Because she didn't know how to answer a question like that. Was she breathing? Yes. But it didn't feel like living. Later that evening, she went back to work. To the structure, to the distractions. She threw herself into the campaign like it could save her from the storm inside. Senator Klein noticed the shift. You okay? She asked during a late-night strategy session. You've been intense lately. Just focused, Lena replied. We're getting close to the debates. I want us to win. Good, Klein said. Because there's talk of a leak. Lena blinked. A leak. Someone's feeding insider information to the opposition. Minor things so far. Talking points. Event changes, but it's enough to make people nervous. Lena felt her stomach clench. Do we know who? Not yet. But I don't like surprises. Keep your ears open, of course. Lena left the office with a pit in her stomach. Vivian had access through her firm, through her contacts, through Lena. The thought made her nauseous. She didn't want to believe Vivian would use her. But could she be sure? That night, she didn't go to Vivian's. She didn't answer her messages. She didn't go home either. She sat in her car for hours, staring at the windshield, trying to remember the exact moment she lost control. Eventually, she drove to Vivian's townhouse. Not to fall into bed. Not this time. Vivian answered the door in a soft t-shirt and bare feet, eyes cautious. You didn't respond. I needed time. Did you get what you needed? I don't know. Vivian stepped aside. Lena entered, but this time she didn't reach for her. She didn't kiss her. I need to ask you something, Lena said, voice low. Vivian's face didn't flinch. Okay. Are you leaking information from my office? The question hung in the air like poison. Vivian's expression hardened just slightly. No. Are you sure? Yes. Lena studied her because it's coming from somewhere and people are starting to ask questions. And you think I would do that to you? I don't know what to think. Vivian's jaw tightened. I've never lied to you. You've never promised me anything either because you're not mine to promise. That stopped her cold. Lena felt her chest ache. Maybe that's the problem. Vivian crossed her arms. You came here to accuse me? I came here to find out if I've been sleeping with someone who's playing me. Then you don't know me at all. Vivian turned away, walking toward the window. I've done a lot of things, Lena. I've ruined people. I've manipulated. I've twisted narratives until even I forgot the truth. But not with you. Never with you. I don't know what to believe anymore. Then figure it out. Vivian snapped, spinning around. Because I won't keep waiting for you to decide whether I'm a weapon or a salvation. Lena's voice cracked. What if you're both? Vivian stepped closer. Then maybe you're finally ready to be honest about the kind of woman you are. Lena didn't sleep that night either because the truth was she wasn't ready. Not to walk away. Not to stay. Not to choose. And soon someone else was going to choose for her. The email arrived at 2:07 a.m. No subject line. No signature, just a screenshot, a blurry zoomed-in photo of Lena and Vivian standing far too close at the charity banquet, eyes locked like no one else existed in the room. It wasn't proof of an affair, not exactly, but it was enough to raise questions, enough to threaten everything. Lena stared at it in the dark, hands shaking, chest hollowing out as the weight of consequences slammed down like a gavel. Someone knew. Someone was watching. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a message. Tell me before they do. No name, no clue, just that voice. Cold, sharp, clinical. She didn't sleep after that. Couldn't. Her mind spiraled with worst-case scenarios. What if it leaked to the press? What if Senator Klein found out? What if Ethan got? What if Ethan had sent it? But that didn't make sense. He didn't even know about the banquet. He hadn't been there. Unless someone told him. Unless someone wanted to hurt her. She showed up to the office the next morning wearing armor, tight bun, dark lipstick, heels like knives. Talia looked up from her desk, eyes wide. Hey, are everything okay? Lena forced a smile. Fine. Just tired. Talia hesitated. Senator Klein wants to see you. Conference room C now. Her stomach dropped. Senator Klein never used conference room C unless it was private and serious. Lena walked down the hall with blood in her mouth and thunder in her chest. When she stepped inside, Senator Klein was alone, arms folded, expression unreadable. Shut the door. Lena obeyed. What's going on? Senator Klein slid a folder across the table. Someone sent this to my personal email last night. Lena opened it. The photo printed in grainy ink. More damning now that it sat under fluorescent lights and judgment. Is that you? Senator Klein asked. Lena nodded. Yes. And the woman a beat. Vivian Cade. Senator Klein's nostrils flared. The PR strategist? Yes. She's been circling my campaign for months, donating to causes adjacent to us. Showing up to events she doesn't belong at. She says she believes in your vision. She doesn't believe in anything but leverage. Senator Klein's eyes sharpened. Are you sleeping with her? The question wasn't curious. It was a trap. Lena's throat dried. That's personal. Not anymore. It's not. If someone leaks this, and they will, it becomes political. You're my mouthpiece, Lena. My face to the press. If you're compromised, so am I. I'm not compromised. You're distracted. You're unraveling. And you're reckless enough to let yourself be photographed with the most powerful woman in the room, looking like you want to rip her clothes off. Heat flushed Lena's face. I never let it interfere with my work until now. Senator Klein's voice softened, not with sympathy, but disappointment. I trusted you. I'm still me. No, Lena, you're not. That landed like a knife. What do you want me to do? Lena asked. End it. That's your decision. But if you want to stay on this campaign, if you want a future in politics, you need to get your together. And if I can't, then resign quietly before this gets worse. Lena stood frozen. Do you think I'm being blackmailed? Senator Klein's gaze was ice. I think you're in over your head. And I think Vivian Cade eats girls like you for breakfast. The words echoed long after the room emptied. Lena didn't go back to her desk. She walked for hours across the city, past buildings that no longer looked familiar, past streets where every face felt like it could be watching. She finally ended up outside Vivian's firm. She didn't plan it. Her feet just took her there. Vivian's office was on the top floor behind glass that looked out over everything. She walked in unannounced. The receptionist blinked. Ms. Voss, tell her I'm coming up. She's in a meeting. Not anymore. The elevator ride felt like a descent into something final. When the doors opened, Vivian was at her desk speaking with two board members. She looked up and saw Lena, and something in her eyes darkened instantly. Gentlemen, give me a moment, she said. As soon as they were gone, Lena stormed in. Did you send it? Vivian didn't pretend not to understand. No. Are you sure? Don't insult me. Someone sent Senator Klein a photo of us from the banquet. Vivian stood slowly. How bad is it? Bad enough that she threatened my job. Bad enough that I'm being told to walk away from this entire campaign because of you. Because of me? Vivian's voice sharpened. You knew what you were risking. Did I? Lena snapped. Because you never once told me what this was. You never once promised I'd be safe. I'm not a safety net, Lena. I never claimed to be. Then what are you? Silence stretched. Vivian walked around the desk, stopped inches from her. I'm the only person who ever saw you. Every dark part, every sharp edge, and I never asked you to dull them. That's not enough. Then leave. I don't want to. Then choose me. The words hit like fire. Lena's voice broke. I can't. Vivian's face didn't move, but her eyes dimmed. Just slightly. Then go before you burn us both. Lena did. She left. Not because she wanted to, but because she had to. That night, she wrote her resignation letter. She stared at it for hours. Her finger hovered over send. Before she could press it, the apartment door opened. Ethan stepped in quiet, pale, holding a sheet of paper. This came in the mail, he said. No return address. He held it out. Lena took it. Another photo, her and Vivian outside the townhouse. Kissing, clear and intimate and undeniable. Her knees buckled. Ethan didn't catch her. He just watched her come apart. Is it real? He asked. Lena looked up, tears spilling. Yes. His voice splintered. Then we're done. She didn't cry when he left. Not at first. Not when the door clicked shut. Not when silence fell over the apartment like ash. Not even when the wedding photo cracked in her grip as she pulled it from the wall. But when she saw his toothbrush still in the cup by the sink, that's when her knees gave way. That's when her body folded onto the cold tile. Sobs tearing loose like grief from somewhere deeper than bone. Because it wasn't just a marriage ending. It was the collapse of the story she'd drafted for years about who she was. The perfect wife. The rising professional. The composed political strategist with a charming husband and a future of clean lines. And scheduled joy. And now she was the woman in the picture, the scandal, the affair, the whisper behind shut doors. Vivian hadn't called. Not since their confrontation. Not after Lena walked out of her office. Not even when the new photo appeared, this one sharp, damning, final. In weeks, Lena had wrecked lives. And she still hadn't chosen what she wanted. It was the indecision that haunted her, not the betrayal, not the sex, but the hesitation. The way she kept stepping to the edge and retreating, hoping someone else would do the pushing. But no one was left. Not Ethan. Not Senator Klein. Not Vivian. She'd burned every bridge and now stood in the smoke, waiting for something to rise. The resignation letter waited in her inbox, unsent. Her finger hovered again. Not yet. Not yet. That afternoon, she went back to the office anyway. She had no idea why. Pride, maybe habit, or the desperate hope that if she could hold on to one piece of her old life, she wouldn't completely fall apart. Talia's eyes widened when she saw her. You're here. Lena forced a small smile for now. Whispers followed her like perfume. Conversations dropped when she passed. Stares lingered too long. Someone had leaked the photo, and it wasn't just a Senator Klein anymore. It was spreading quietly like blood and water. At noon, Senator Klein called her in. No greeting, no preamble. I need your resignation on my desk by the end of the day. Lena sat down. I'm not the one who leaked the photo. Doesn't matter. I didn't give her anything. No information, no access. I kept everything separate. Again. Doesn't matter. Senator Klein folded her arms. You're the headline now, and I can't afford headlines that aren't mine. I gave everything to this campaign, and now you'll give it a clean exit. Senator Klein's voice was cold, but her eyes flickered briefly with something like regret. You're brilliant, Lena, but brilliance doesn't excuse recklessness. You made your choice. Now own it. The words hurt, not because they weren't true, but because they were. Lena stood, shoulders back, spine still. I'll send it before I leave. Good. Senator Klein nodded once. And Lena, she paused. You were never invisible. Not to the right people. That was the closest thing to forgiveness she'd ever get. By the time she returned to her desk, the ache in her chest was no longer guilt. It was grief. But not just for Ethan. Not just for her job. It was grief for the version of herself she could never be again. The safe one. The accepted one. The one no one questioned. At 5:43 p.m., she hit send. Her resignation went through. Final. Clean. Silent. At 6:17 p.m., Vivian called. Lena stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Then she called back. You saw the photo, she said. Yes. It wasn't you. No. Lena exhaled. I believe you. Doesn't matter now, does it? Vivian's voice was tight, controlled. Your husband left. You lost your job and you still walked away from me. I didn't walk away because I stopped wanting you. Then why? Lena swallowed. Because I didn't want you to be right. Silence crackled on the line. I told you I'd ruin you, Vivian said. You didn't I? You stripped everything I was pretending to be. That's not ruin. That's truth. Vivian's voice softened. So, what now? Lena closed her eyes. I don't know. Do you still want me? Yes. Do you trust me? I don't know how to trust anyone right now. Another silence. Then Vivian said, Come to me, Lena. No promises, no decisions. Just come. Let me hold you when the world burns. Lena hesitated, then whispered, I'm already outside. The door opened before she knocked. Vivian didn't smile, didn't speak. She just pulled her inside and wrapped her arms around her like gravity itself was trying to put her back together. Lena clung to her, sobs breaking loose again. Not because of pain, but because this was the first time in days she felt like she could breathe. Vivian kissed her forehead, her temple, her cheek. Then finally, her lips, slow, reverent, grounding. Not lust, not desperation, just presence. You're safe, she murmured. Here, you're safe. I don't know who I am anymore, Lena whispered. Then we'll find out together. I've lost everything. No. Vivian looked at her fiercely. You finally made space to become something real. They didn't sleep that night either, but not because of sex. They lay in bed fully clothed, tangled under blankets, whispering truths neither of them had ever said aloud. Vivian talked about her past, the woman she used to love, the one she lost, the mistakes she made building her empire, the armor she built to protect the softest parts of herself. Lena listened, and then she spoke to about the girl she used to be before everyone told her what kind of woman she was allowed to become. About the fear, about the rage, about the hunger she never dared name until now. They didn't fix anything, didn't make plans, didn't declare forever. But in that quiet, dark room, wrapped in nothing but raw honesty, Lena realized something terrifying and beautiful at once. For the first time, she wasn't surviving someone else's story. She was finally writing her own. Lena didn't recognize the woman staring back at her in the mirror. Not at first. She stood in Vivian's bathroom, wrapped in a white towel, hair damp, skin flushed from the steam, and just looked. No makeup, no mask, just her stripped bare. She expected to feel shame, guilt, grief. But what she felt was stranger, quieter, like standing in the ruins of a life she no longer wanted to rebuild. Vivian appeared behind her, silent and barefoot, holding a mug of coffee. She handed it over and didn't say a word. Lena took it with shaking hands and met her eyes in the mirror. "You make it feel easier than it is." "It's not easy," Vivian said softly. "It's just necessary letting go of everything." Lena looked down. "How did you do it?" "By admitting none of it was ever really mine." That truth hit deeper than it should have. Lena had spent years clinging to identities that had been handed to her like costumes. Wife, strategist, public face, good girl. None of them felt like her anymore. Maybe they never had. She spent the next few days in the quiet of Vivian's home, away from headlines and questions and half-burned bridges. Vivian worked during the day, running her empire with the same cold fire Lena had once found intimidating. Now it felt like watching a woman who had built herself from ashes. And maybe Lena could, too. At night, they didn't always talk. Sometimes they just existed side by side. Vivian reading on the couch, Lena curled beside her, breathing in sync. It was intimacy beyond sex, safety without silence. But the outside world wasn't going to stay quiet forever. The story had broken wide now. Headlines danced across every media platform. Senator Klein's former advisor linked to high-profile CEO in scandalous affair. They didn't use Vivian's name directly. Not yet. But everyone knew. And Vivian didn't flinch. "I've survived worse," she said, sipping her wine, legs crossed, poised as ever. "Let them look. They'll get bored." "What if they don't?" Lena asked. "What if this ruins you too?" Vivian turned, her gaze soft but unwavering. "I don't regret you. Let them come." But Lena wasn't so sure. She didn't have Vivian's armor, her detachment, her ability to turn public scrutiny into leverage. Lena had lost everything that tethered her, and now she was free falling through the consequences. A week after the photo leak, Ethan filed for divorce. Lena got the papers in a quiet manila envelope. No note. No message, just a legal boundary drawn with surgical precision. She didn't cry when she read them, just signed. It was done. Over. As clean as a knife could be. That same afternoon, Talia sent her a message. It was hesitant, kind, simple. "I'm sorry about how things ended. I miss you here." Lena stared at it for a long time before replying. "I miss you, too. Thank you." She didn't expect forgiveness, didn't even want it. But kindness felt like a language she was still learning how to speak again. Vivian gave her space, but not distance. When Lena drifted into silence, Vivian didn't cry. She offered presence. When Lena lashed out, she didn't retaliate. She waited. And when Lena finally cracked, whispering, "I don't know who I am without my title," Vivian pulled her in and said, "Then it's time to find out who you were before it." And that began something Lena hadn't anticipated. Rebuilding not just her life, but herself. She started writing again, something she hadn't done since college. Late at night, fingers curled around a pen, journal open, Vivian asleep in the next room. She wrote about fear, about power, about women who choose themselves and burn down everything in their way. She wrote about guilt, but also about desire, and how sometimes the two exist in the same breath. Slowly, something began to form, a voice, her own. It was shaky, uncertain, but real. One night, Vivian found her curled up on the floor beside the window, writing in the dark. "You're awake," she said. Vivian sat beside her. "You're glowing." Lena laughed quietly. "That's just sweat and anxiety." "No," Vivian said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "That's rebirth. Do you believe people can start over?" "No," Vivian said. "I believe they can become. Starting over means erasing what happened. Becoming means using it to change." Lena looked at her. "You say things like that and I forget to breathe." Vivian smiled. "That's the point." The next morning, Vivian surprised her with something unexpected. An offer. "I have a client," she said, handing Lena a folder. "They're looking for a communications consultant. Quiet work. No public exposure. Full creative control. You'd be perfect." Lena blinked. "You're giving me a job? I'm giving you an option. One you choose for yourself. Is this pity?" "No, it's respect." Lena flipped through the pages. A nonprofit focused on women's leadership initiatives. Underfunded, undervalued, full of potential. "They'll hate me," she said, "because of the scandal. Then make them need you more than they want to judge you." Vivian leaned in. "You're still brilliant. They'll see that if you let them." Lena didn't decide right away, but the folder stayed on the nightstand. And 3 days later, she sent the first email. That was the first choice she made entirely for herself. A small one, but it mattered. It wasn't a return. It was a becoming. When she told Vivian there were no fireworks, just a slow, proud smile and a kiss that said everything words couldn't. That night, as they lay in bed, fingers intertwined, breath synced like tides, Lena whispered, "I'm not ready to call this love." Vivian didn't flinch. "I don't need a label. I just need truth. I'm still scared." "Good." Vivian kissed her shoulder. "Then we're doing it right." Lena turned toward her. "I don't want to lose you." "Then don't." Vivian's voice was steady. "But if you do, don't lose yourself, too." And with those words, Lena finally understood. This wasn't a story about falling in love. Not really. It was a story about choosing herself and allowing love to meet her there. The first day back in the world felt like walking into a room that used to belong to her, and realizing someone else had changed the furniture. Lena stepped into the office of the nonprofit Vivian had introduced her to, a modest space in an old building downtown with peeling paint, overstudded bookshelves, and a receptionist named Riley Cho who greeted her with warm eyes and zero recognition. It was everything she needed. No power suits, no cameras, no whispers in hallways, just work. Real work. Purpose. The executive director, Naomi Garber, was kind but firm, clearly exhausted from doing too much with too little. She handed Lena a stack of folders and said, "We're drowning in messaging issues. I've seen what you can do. Fix it." There was no mention of the scandal, no allusion to Vivian, no quiet judgment disguised as politeness. Just trust. Quiet, cautious, but real. Lena worked hard. She rebuilt their communications framework, rewrote the donation campaigns, structured media kits that could actually pull attention from the chaos of the political climate. The work was good. It was slow. It was grounding, and for the first time in months, she didn't feel like she was performing a version of herself. She just was. Vivian didn't hover. She gave space even when Lena felt herself craving the intensity of her presence. But their rhythm had changed. The calls were softer now, the dinners less urgent. They still touched like it mattered, but it was no longer about escape. It was about returning, and Lena was returning to herself piece by piece. But the world hadn't forgotten. One afternoon, while Lena waited for her coffee at a small Finch and Fig cafe near the office, a woman approached her, well-dressed, mid-30s, calculated in every step. "Lena Voss?" she asked. Lena turned. "Yes, I just wanted to say." The woman tilted her head, smiling without warmth. "You're braver than I expected." Most people would have disappeared after what you pulled. Lena blinked. I'm sorry. Do I know you? You don't. But we all know you. The smile sharpened. The woman who blew up her marriage and career for a quick thrill with the ice queen of PR. Lena's heart stuttered. You should be ashamed, the woman said. Some of us work our asses off to be taken seriously. And then women like you make it harder for the rest of us. She walked away before Lena could respond. Lena stood frozen, hands trembling, breath caught between fury and humiliation. When she finally got back to the office, she locked herself in the bathroom and stared at her reflection. That woman was wrong, but also not completely. Lena had made a mess, but the part she refused to carry anymore was shame. She went home that night and told Vivian what happened. Vivian listened without interruption, eyes unreadable, fingers drumming lightly on the wine glass in her hand. When Lena finished, Vivian stood, walked across the room, and said, You don't owe the world a performance of your regret. Let them talk. That's all most people can do. I didn't even know her, Lena whispered. She knew the version of you the media sold. Vivian reached out, gently brushing her thumb across Lena's cheek. And that's not your responsibility to fix. But is it yours? Vivian hesitated. What do you mean? Senator Klein was right. Lena said, You move in shadows. You're used to power influence. Did I matter, or was I just another way to get under her skin? Vivian's expression shattered just for a second. You think I used you? I think I don't know how to believe I wasn't. Vivian stepped back. Then I failed you. Not because I did use you, but because I let you believe it was possible. Lena's throat tightened. Why didn't you ever ask me to stay? Because I didn't want a prisoner. I wanted a partner. Vivian's voice cracked. I've never chased anyone, Lena. Not in my entire life. But I'd have chased you if you had just turned around. I didn't know how, Lena whispered. Vivian reached for her hand. Then start now. The moment stretched between them, raw and pulsing. And in that silence, Lena finally realized something. Vivian wasn't untouchable. She wasn't invulnerable. She was just afraid in more sophisticated ways. Afraid of needing. Afraid of wanting too much. Afraid that loving someone could undo everything she'd built to protect herself. And maybe that was what love really was. Not the perfect surrender, but the flawed, terrified decision to stay anyway. Lena stepped forward, wrapped her arms around her, and said, I want to be yours, but I want to be mine first. Vivian exhaled against her shoulder, then be both. That weekend, they went away. No agenda, no PR, no city lights, just a cabin upstate, trees painted in gold and fire. Autumn pressing and like permission to begin again. They hiked, they cooked, they sat in silence. Vivian read poetry aloud by the fire. Lena traced the freckles on her arm like they were constellations. And for the first time, the quiet between them wasn't tension. It was peace. On the last night, Vivian lay beside her, eyes on the ceiling. Do you ever think about what it would have been like if we met differently? All the time. Do you think we'd still have found each other? Yes, Lena said, because I think I was always on my way to you. Vivian turned her head. And now I'm not running anymore. Vivian smiled. Good, because I'm not going to let you go. Lena kissed her slow and sure and unafraid. The kind of kiss that didn't ask for anything. The kind that promised. When they returned to the city, something had shifted. Lena wasn't hiding anymore. She walked into her new office with her head held high. She answered questions when they came. She didn't apologize because the woman in the mirror wasn't the same. She wasn't the scandal. She wasn't the fall. She was the aftermath and the one who had survived it. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid of being seen. It started with a headline. Quiet, strategic, deadly. Lena Voss, hired by the Women's Initiative, an organization linked to former lover Vivian Cade. The article didn't shout scandal. It murmured it carefully phrased, citing sources close to the nonprofit. hinting at conflicts of interest and implying Lena's role might owe more to Vivian's shadow than to merit. It wasn't character assassination. It was worse. Doubt. And in the worlds of politics and power, doubt could bury you alive. Naomi summoned her the next morning, closing the office door with a weary sigh. You didn't tell me she was your ex. I didn't think it was relevant. Maybe not to the work, Naomi said. But to perception? It's relevant now. Lena's jaw tightened. You read the proposal drafts. You saw what I built. You know I didn't get this because of her. I do, Naomi said. But the board doesn't know you like I do. They see a woman with a past and a headline. So what do? We ride it out. Naomi leaned forward. Keep your head down. No interviews. No events. Stay quiet and keep working. Lena nodded, but something twisted inside her. It was always the same prescription. Shrink, apologize, disappear. She didn't want to vanish anymore, not for Vivian, not for anyone. That night she paced her apartment, the one she now occupied alone. No shared drawers, no second toothbrush, just quiet. Real, sometimes painful, but hers. Vivian arrived late, still in heels, still armored in makeup, and took one look at Lena's face. What happened? Lena tossed the tablet onto the couch. You tell me. Vivian read the piece, mouth set hard. I didn't leak this. I know. But I know who did. Lena's eyes narrowed. Who? Someone in Senator Klein's orbit, Vivian said, sitting down. This is a political play, not a personal one. They're afraid of what you still represent. I don't represent anything anymore. You do, Vivian said sharply. You represent a woman who didn't stay in her place. A woman who didn't beg for forgiveness. That's the threat. Lena exhaled. I'm tired of being the problem in someone else's narrative. Vivian reached out. Then stop letting them write it. What does that even mean? It means, Vivian said carefully, that the version of you the world keeps dragging through the mud. It's not yours. And if you want your story back, you're going to have to take it. Lena stared at her, the words sinking deeper than she wanted to admit, because Vivian wasn't just talking about the press. She was talking about everything. Her marriage, her career, her identity. I'm not like you, she whispered. I don't have armor. Vivian touched her cheek, then grow new skin. The next day, Lena requested a meeting with the board. Naomi raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Yes. You're going to walk into a room full of people who think you're nothing but a headline and try to convince them you belong. No, Lena said. I'm going to show them I already do. The room was cold. 5 people, 2 women, 3 men, neutral faces, expectant. Lena stood at the head of the table, hands calm, spine straight, voice steady. You've seen the article. You've read the subtext. And you've probably already had conversations I wasn't invited to. She looked each one in the eye. So here's my invitation to talk about it now. All of it. No one interrupted. Yes, I was involved with Vivian Cade. Yes, I left a job in disgrace. Yes, my life exploded. And no, I'm not sorry for choosing myself when everything around me was built to control me. Someone shifted in their seat. What I do regret, Lena continued, is not speaking sooner. Not owning the fact that survival is messy. That rebuilding looks like failure before it looks like progress. That women like me who fall in public aren't weak. We're just visible. She exhaled. And if that visibility makes you nervous, you're welcome to replace me. But if you want someone who knows exactly what it means to lose everything, and still get up the next morning to fight for women who don't get second chances, then I'm already in this chair and I'm not leaving. Silence. Then Naomi smiled slow and proud and one of the board members nodded. Lena left the room breathless but whole. She didn't wait for approval. She wasn't performing anymore. That night, she stood on Vivian's balcony, wind in her hair, wine glass untouched. Vivian came up behind her, wrapped arms around her waist. I heard. You always do. How do you feel? Like I finally used my voice again. Vivian kissed the back of her neck. Good. You never lost it. You just lent it to people who didn't deserve it. That sounds like something you'd say. Because it is. Lena turned in her arms. Can I ask you something? Anything? Would you still want me if I lost everything again? Vivian didn't hesitate. I didn't want you for what you had. I wanted you for what you are. And what's that? Terrifying. Vivian smiled. And brilliant. Lena kissed her. Not to prove something. Not to claim. Just to say yes. Yes to this. Yes to her. Yes to herself. The next morning, her inbox was full of new messages from women, strangers, allies, former enemies. A journalist she once worked with sent a note that simply said, "That speech is making rounds. You've started something." Lena smiled, not because she wanted to be a symbol, but because for once she didn't have to be ashamed of being seen. And the woman the world thought they buried. She wasn't dead. She was just getting started. Power never comes without consequence. That was something Vivian Cade had always known, had lived by, had weaponized in every deal, every negotiation, every look that said, "I see you and I will win." But love, that was different. Love was messy. Love was irrational. Love was a variable she could never fully control. And watching Lena rise, watching her take the narrative back into her own hands was both the proudest and most terrifying experience Vivian had ever survived. Because for the first time, she was no longer the one pulling strings. She was just holding her breath. And that had never been her role. Lena, meanwhile, was on fire. The speech had gone viral in quiet circles. It wasn't a trending hashtag or a public apology gone performative. It was something better, real, private, shared like a secret among women who had been told to sit down and smile. The nonprofit's board not only kept her, they promoted her, put her in charge of messaging across multiple initiatives. She was rebuilding, yes, but this time not from someone else's blueprint. This time, the bones were hers. But with visibility came attention. Some of it was good, some of it wasn't. Anonymous messages began appearing in her inbox again. Not threats, just venom. "We don't forget women like you. Don't think for a second your redemption arc makes you admirable. We're watching." Lena didn't flinch anymore. She reported them, blocked them, moved on. But Vivian watched with rage. She barely kept beneath her skin. "Give me their names," she said one night, pacing the living room. "I'll have their IPs. I'll have their jobs. I'll make them regret they ever." "No," Lena said, standing. "That's not how I fight anymore." Vivian stopped. "So what? You just take it." "No," Lena said again. "I outlive it." Vivian looked at her like she didn't recognize her. And maybe she didn't because Lena wasn't broken anymore. She wasn't brittle. She wasn't standing in Vivian's shadow. She was side by side. And something about that scared the hell out of Vivian. "You don't need me anymore," she said quietly. Lena blinked. "What?" "You've become everything I knew you could be without me." Lena stepped closer. "I didn't do it without you. But you could have. And that's a good thing." Vivian's jaw clenched. "Is it?" "Yes," Lena said. "I don't want to need you. I want to choose you." Vivian didn't speak. Not for a long time. And then softly, "I don't know how to be loved without being necessary." The words were so bare, so unguarded. They knocked the air right out of the room. Lena reached out, fingers grazing her wrist. "Then let me love you without owing you." Vivian didn't pull away, but she didn't lean in either. That night, they didn't sleep tangled together. Vivian stayed in the other room, not out of anger, but something worse, fear. Because for all her power, all her dominance, all her curated control, Vivian Cade had never learned how to stay still when someone loved her with nothing to gain. The next morning, Lena found a note on the counter. "I need space. I need to know I'm not just watching you become, but becoming something, too. Don't wait for me. I'll find my way back or I won't. But this time, the choice will be mine. No signature, no kiss, no goodbye. Lena stood in the kitchen, mug untouched, pulse numb. She didn't chase her. She didn't fall apart. She didn't scream. She just breathed slowly, deeply, because this wasn't the old Lena. This wasn't abandonment. This wasn't rejection. This was growth. And growth sometimes meant loving someone enough to let them go find the version of themselves they couldn't access when standing in your light. Vivian was not her salvation, and Lena was not Vivian's prize. They were not two halves of a whole. They were two entire women. And now, for the first time, they would have to learn what that meant apart. Days passed, then weeks. Lena kept going. The campaign she launched for the nonprofit gained national attention. She was invited to speak on panels. Her inbox filled with new opportunities, new cities, new stages. She said yes to some, no to others. And in all of them, she carried Vivian's ghost not as a wound, but as a witness. Because Vivian had seen her first, had loved her loudest, had stood beside her when she still shook under the weight of her own silence. That didn't disappear. That didn't die. It just paused. And then one night, Lena walked home from an event, heels in her hand, exhaustion warm on her shoulders, and there she was, Vivian, sitting on the steps of her brownstone. No makeup, no heels, no mask, just her human real, unshakable and yet visibly shaken. Lena stopped. "How long have you been here?" "An hour," Vivian said. "Maybe more." "Why didn't you knock?" "I wasn't sure if you'd answer." Lena walked forward, sat beside her. "I would have." Vivian exhaled. "I've been in therapy. First time in my life." "Good," Lena said gently. "How's it goin'?" Vivian smiled weakly. "Turns out I've been afraid of being chosen by someone who doesn't need me. Because it means they could leave, and I couldn't stop them." Lena turned to her, heartbreaking in the way only honesty can. "You're allowed to be afraid." Vivian looked at her. "I want to try again. Me, too. But not what we were." Vivian said, "Not you broken and me saving you. Not me untouchable and you worshipping me. No." Lena agreed. "To women side by side. No pedestal. No cage." Vivian reached for her hand. "Can we start there?" Lena squeezed her fingers. "We already have." The street light flickered above them. Somewhere far off, a siren wailed. Life didn't pause for epiphies. But in that moment, on those stone steps, two women finally met each other fully. Not as rescuer and rescued. Not as secret and scandal. But as equals, as survivors, as lovers, and maybe, just maybe, as something that could last. Love was quieter this time. No explosions, no stolen kisses behind closed doors. No urgent glances across crowded rooms like they were one touch away from setting everything on fire. No, this version of love was steady, warm, patient, like sunlight through glass, like exhale after holding your breath too long. Lena and Vivian didn't fall into each other the way they had before. They stepped slowly, deliberately. Every gesture was a choice. Every conversation a thread woven instead of pulled. The first night they spent together again wasn't sexual. It was soft. They lay in bed not touching at first. Talking in the dark the way they used to talk when everything still felt like a risk. Vivian told her things she'd never told anyone about her father's silence, her mother's perfectionism, the years she spent mistaking power for safety. Lena shared the small traumas, the comments, the pressure, the invisible hand shaping her life from the outside in. And when Vivian finally reached for her, it wasn't hunger this time. It was reverence. They undressed each other like it meant something, like every scar deserved to be witnessed. The next morning, they woke tangled together, bodies calm, minds quiet. No shame, no doubt, just presence. And that was the beginning. For weeks, they rebuilt. Not a relationship defined by secrecy or destruction, but one born from knowing. They talked about everything now. Boundaries, needs, fear, love. Lena didn't ask Vivian to stay the night unless she wanted her there. Vivian didn't assume Lena would be available unless she said so. There were no games, no performances, no walking on glass. But the world didn't forget. It never did. Vivian had made her peace with that. Lena was still learning. One morning, Lena was invited to speak at a panel titled Redemption and Reclamation. Women who refuse to disappear. She read the email twice before calling Vivian. "They want me to be the symbol," she said, pacing. "The cautionary tale with a happy ending. And you're not. I don't want to be the proof that people can forgive a woman for loving the wrong person at the wrong time. Then be the proof that loving boldly isn't wrong at all. I don't know if I'm ready." "Then say that too." Vivian's voice gentle. "Say it all. The power isn't in being perfect, Lena. It's in being seen anyway." Lena accepted. The panel was held in a packed conference center, a room full of women, some broken, some rebuilding, all hungry for something real. Lena sat on stage beside a journalist who had survived a very public divorce, a former congresswoman forced to resign after an affair with a younger man, and a woman who left the church after coming out. When it was her turn, Lena stood, no script, just breath and truth. "A year ago," she began, "I was someone's wife, someone's advisor, someone's political puppet. I had a name, yes, but no voice." She paused. "And then I met a woman who made me realize I'd built a life so clean, so polished that I had no idea who I was beneath it." The room was still. "She didn't save me. She ruined my excuses." She held up a mirror and asked if I recognized the woman inside it. "I didn't. Not then, but I do now." She smiled softly. "And she's complicated, flawed, emotional, brave. She's still learning how to forgive herself, but she's mine." Applause wasn't immediate, but it came. And it wasn't loud. It was full of women who understood, who had been her, who had swallowed versions of themselves to fit the world's expectations, only to find that hunger doesn't die, it furs. After the panel, Lena stepped outside to breathe. Vivian was already waiting in the hallway, arms crossed, eyes soft. "You are brilliant," she said. I was honest. "Same thing." Vivian reached for her hand. "Come with me." "Where?" "Home." "But not mine." Lena blinked. "What do you mean?" Vivian's expression shifted. Sudden nerves. "Real. I bought a place. It's nothing extravagant. Just space for us." Lena's breath caught. "You bought a home for us." "I bought a home for me. And I want you to be part of it if you want to." You did this without telling me." Vivian gave a one-shouldered shrug. "I didn't want to do it to impress you. I wanted to do it because it's time I stopped living in penthouses I don't sleep in." Lena stared. "Show me." The apartment was on a quiet street. A third-floor walk-up. Exposed brick. Bookshelves already half full. Paint cans in the corner. A kitchen that looked used. Vivian opened the door and said, "It's not perfect." Lena stepped inside. "It's alive." Vivian followed. "I've lived everywhere. Hotels, high-rises. I've never lived anywhere I wanted to invite someone into." Lena turned. "And now," Vivian's voice dropped, "now I want you in every corner." Lena kissed her. Not for the cameras. Not because it was a story, just because. Because she was tired of pretending she had anything to prove. Later, after they had made love on a mattress still on the floor, after the wine and the laughter and the music, Vivian said quietly, "You don't owe me anything." Lena rolled onto her side. Hair messy, cheeks flushed. "I know. But if you stay, don't do it out of gratitude." Lena laughed softly. "Do I look grateful or in love?" "Both," Vivian said. "But I'd rather you be selfish about it." "Then I'm selfish," Lena whispered. "Because I want this. Not for the redemption arc. Not because it looks good on paper. But because I choose it." Vivian closed her eyes. "Say it again." "I choose it." Vivian exhaled like a woman being forgiven for things she hadn't said out loud. And Lena, curled against her, smiled. Because for the first time, They weren't surviving each other. They were building something real, quiet, steady, and strong enough to hold the past without letting it define the future. It didn't end with a ring, not with a wedding, not with champagne flutes or matching vows or a filtered Instagram post that said, "She said yes." It ended with 2 mugs of coffee, a slow morning, the sound of birds through the window. Vivian forgot to close Lena's bare feet against hardwood floors as she danced quietly to a record that crackled with age and warmth. It ended with ordinary love, the kind that isn't performed, but lived. The kind that survives headlines and heartbreak and becomes something so whole that it doesn't need to shout to be heard. Months had passed. 6 to be exact. 6 months since Lena chose not to run. 6 months since Vivian chose not to control. 6 months since 2 women stood on the ruins of their old selves and said, "Let's build." It wasn't perfect. Nothing was. They fought about cabinet space, about Vivian's habit of vanishing into her work for hours without saying a word, about Lena's tendency to let her emotions speak before her reason caught up. But they always came back. Always. Because the new version of them wasn't about survival anymore. It was about return. One morning, Lena got a call from a major news outlet. They wanted to do a profile piece, the woman who chose herself. She almost said yes. Almost. But instead, she turned to Vivian, who was still half asleep and wearing one of Lena's hoodies, and said, "Do I need to keep proving this to everyone?" Vivian reached for her hand. Not anymore. And that was the day Lena stopped explaining herself. She refused. No to the interview. No to being a symbol. No to becoming the woman the world held up as a cautionary tale. She wasn't a warning, and she wasn't a redemption arc. She was a person. And she was done performing. Vivian, meanwhile, shifted in quieter ways. She pared back her company, stepped out from the persona of a shadow puppeteer. She still had reach, still could tilt a room with a call, but she used it differently now. Less for control, more for making things. More for women like Lena who were building from truth instead of illusion. Together they hosted dinners, not galas. Not power summits, just warm rooms where sharp women sipped soft wine and let conversations wander from politics to poetry and back again. In spring they wandered Italy, where Vivian pretended not to be nervous on a moped and Lena laughed so hard she nearly toppled off. In summer they drifted through Calera, got lost in a Kasira bazaar, and ended up sharing tea with an elderly woman who spoke no English, but said everything Lena needed with her eyes. Back home, Lena published her first essay under her own name. It wasn't about Vivian, and it wasn't about the scandal. It was about silence, the hunger women carry, and what it means to stop apologizing for wanting more. It spread not through gossip or outrage, but resonance. Quiet shares, book clubs. University syllabi. A professor wrote, "You've just given my students permission to take up space." Vivian framed the letter and hung it in the hallway. The nights were best, not only the sex, though that, too, felt sacred, but the quiet ones. Lena reading in bed, glasses slightly askew. Vivian sketching on her tablet beside her, brow drawn, lip caught in concentration. No performance, just presence. One evening, with the city murmuring outside and an old, aching record spinning in the living room, Vivian stood in the kitchen with a glass of water and said, "I used to think love made you weak." Lena glanced up. "And now I think it makes you brave." She crossed the room and wrapped her arms around Lena from behind. Because staying is harder than leaving. Choosing the same person every day, even when you don't have to, that strength. Lena turned in her arms. "Then we're strong as hell." Vivian smiled, beautifully dangerous. Later that night, in the stillness that only comes when every part of your body feels home, Vivian whispered, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't walked into that gala?" Lena didn't open her eyes all the time. "Do you regret it?" "Never," Vivian exhaled. "Me neither." In the morning, Lena made pancakes, burned the first batch. Vivian teased her and made espresso with too much milk. They stood barefoot in the kitchen, Hair messy, heart full, no makeup, no secrets, no masks. And Lena looked at her, really looked, and thought, this is the ending I never knew I was allowed to have. Not one where everything is tied up in bows, but one where nothing needs to be hidden. One where love doesn't demand sacrifice, but grows alongside freedom. Where desire isn't shameful and ambition isn't betrayal. Where the woman she was and the woman she became can finally look at each other and smile. That afternoon they walked hand in hand down the street, not hiding, not explaining, just being. A couple passed them, two women younger, maybe mid-20s, who recognized them instantly. One of them looked nervous, hysteric. The other smiled and whispered, they look happy. Lena heard it, squeezed Vivian's hand, and said, we are not perfect, not legendary, not tragic, just happy. And that was more than enough. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you.